I think this one. All right, let's see what it does.
Welcome, everyone, to another edition of our Fireside Chat.
Thanks, Schreiner.
I'm joined today by Bill Mobley, who is the CEO of FreeCast. Bill, thank you first and foremost for your time today and for sharing your story with our audience.
Oh, you're welcome. Glad to be here. Thank you, Ben.
All right, Bill, let's get right to it. If you would, please tell us a bit about what FreeCast is, and then a little bit about your history, because it's an extensive one and you've seen some things.
Certainly done that. So, FreeCast has positioned itself as not just an aggregator of all media, but it's literally a service that aids in the consumer who's going through some of what we would call the confusion of all the different apps and things. So, the platform itself, we actually give it a nickname. It's called Nomad, for no more app diving, right? Because all the data is brought up to the top. And that services the customer in a way where they can get access to everything. They can add their subscriptions free of paid, and they can work through it. So, yeah, I mean, it's a great product for the consumer, but also it's making its way into commercial applications and things at this point. So we're very excited for all the traction.
Well, congratulations for your success. Take us back to how you got into streaming, because you've got a long history here. And again, I want the audience to appreciate kind of the evolution from your eyes.
No, absolutely. So it goes all the way back to what was called pre-buffering, which is what most people use on their phones and tablets and most devices when you're actually watching a video. You just click it, it plays. Previous to that, you had, going back into the mid-90s, you had RealPlayer, which you had to download the video, you had to wait for it to buffer, you had to wait for the bandwidth to catch up. So,
a lot of waiting. A
lot of waiting. About a 30-minute video took you about probably 45, 50 minutes to get it prepared to be able to watch it. So by creating that technology, our legal team got involved, and I got some really great guys, and we built a company back in the day that actually started streaming, very similar to the video on demand platform that Netflix has. We were very successful. We were doing about 800,000 videos a day because the studios bequeathed their content upon us, everything from Twister to Top Gun, Enemy Estate, movies that were very popular, to see if people would watch it on their computer. And they did, and it was fascinating. And unfortunately, the time came when the revenues were not there, and the dot-com implosion, whatever they want to call it. What it means is $30 a thousand turns into $3 a thousand. So I came forward and been through some iterations, and took some time off. Mama Mobley wanted kids, and we came back, and a few years later, right after Netflix kind of got into the game and started paying attention at different levels.
Wow. So let's talk a little bit about the change in how you deliver the service. So you go clear back to the 90s, and we did things a certain way, I'm sure. Hopefully you're not still doing things that way any longer. So tell the audience a bit about what's changed from how you deliver this video on demand capability.
Yeah, so we saw it kind of taking shape again after Netflix, and what we were realizing was that there was going to be, everybody was going to be a channel one day, or a resource for it. So we spent our time focusing on the guide, the very expansive kind of TV guide where, and you got to realize, going back into around 2012, 13, most of the websites for the media companies had what were called flash files, instant video that played, and most people used their laptop or computer to access those videos, and they just played the last night's episodes or whatever the seasonal episodes that they would allow them to watch. And then we started paying attention more to growth. We did the Olympics and put links to all the live Olympic feeds, and it kind of grew out. And literally we got approached by a group that was a big box retail kind of marketing company and said, listen, we want to sell this, and we want to put it on a device so consumers can put it in the computer to get access. And to truth be told, I don't know that I understood it, but our FreeCast company created a product with them called Rabbit TV, sold millions. It was big box retail product of the year for a couple of years, and certainly was a dynamic product because what it did is it just gave people information on where everything was at, so they could easily click, just like a TV guide, but it was actually interactive and allowed them to go to it. And we saw great success from that. And then we kind of got into this space where as that tapered down, we came back and started looking at the next layer of where the progression was in the market. And it was people kind of trying to figure out apps and how to stream. And and people were called cord cutters. So we started focusing on a product called Streaming TV Kit. We gave it a Select TV brand, and we had it all prepared and ready to go. And then we got right to that point at delivery, because the big box retailers were excited to get it because they knew about Rabbit TV, and it was another round. And then COVID hit, and not much was going on with that because they couldn't accept new products on the show because they didn't even have people coming into the stores. So we really got to that point. It was like it was a frozen moment, and that was difficult for us.
So Bill, you're CEO. You've got a product that's had a lot of commercial success, and COVID hits. And like many of our audience members, that was a pivotal moment, right? And so, how as the CEO, how did you handle that, and what did you do now that people weren't going to be able to go to a store and buy your product? What did you do?
Well, we were clever to the sense that we had a lot of relationships in what are called the commercial property and multi-dwelling unit building property planners and development companies. So we knew that bandwidth at the time was really the key thing, because a lot of the cable was being taken out of what is called bulk bandwidth into these buildings because it had become too expensive. There was no margins for those property managers to do it, and people had moved on to streaming. So we basically created the product now around a concept of let's build something that they can adhere to the bandwidth relationship that they're always going to have with those consumers, because they're doing Internet of Things, they're doing all these other applications. Let's aggregate everything and create an operating system which acts as an app that they can put on all their devices that brings all this media and allows them to manage it, manage the payments and everything in their homes. And at that point, it became very practical, and it just took off because a large percentage of the doors at multiple levels, from hospitality, healthcare, as I said, apartment management firms, campuses, everyone's looking for something like that. And we were able to help monetize it because, think about it, we provide all the data up top. So I know you go from ABC's Grey's Anatomy to CBS's Blue Bloods, the NBC's of Voice, you go to Yes Network, catch your Yankees game. That data was hugely valuable to the advertisers, and more importantly, it allowed us to create a margin in advertising that we could then share with those property owners, so they acquired a revenue while they now bared no cost, no equipment in the tech closet and things like that. So it was a good shift for us and a smart move, and it's equitable for everybody that's associated with it.
Bill, I love it that you're saying here that you've optimized the experience for the property manager as well as the customer, because you're consolidating, you're making things easier, which who doesn't want easier? And I'm empathetic because I've got those apps that you just described, and I can't remember who I've subscribed to and who I canceled because my wife's favorite show is on this one now and not on that other one, and now I'm paying for two and I really only need the one. So I'm your target market, I think, exactly. I love too that you said you're collecting this data around personalizing the experience so that ads are now tailored to the local market and what that customer is interested in, instead of just generic stuff that I don't or a customer doesn't care about, which makes your ad customers or that revenue stream more effective and efficient, which has got to be a big differentiator for yourselves. How are you managing that data and collecting it and then packaging it in a way that can be leveraged?
Well, again, when you're able to see across it and accumulate it, now what we really needed was the ability to scale. Because think about it, we have these huge customers now with bringing us tons of eyeballs and doors, we call them actually in our space.
Yep.
And within those doors, we have customers. So, and everything was matching up. The biggest thing for us, we had to grow. And that was really where the relationship started to get bigger with Amazon, for instance, and AWS on that side of the building. Because think about it, we were already using hosting. It was a general practice that we got into when we first got involved with AWS. But what we started to do is we started to touch base with them on this scale, because now the demands were going to be much greater to be spread out. But more importantly, we needed help in some things, right? I mean, let's look at it this way. It's great to have a data, but we needed a data lake, because think about it. Every item that you're going to collect from a consumer who's now going to go across all these platforms by reading the data was valuable because then again, you can make those determinations. Well, they don't watch these types of ads, but this is an interest. This person plays with a Ping Golf Club and a Callaway Club. This person drives a Lincoln, or they drive a Cadillac or a Ford. Meaning putting the relevant information in front of them required a huge data lake. And so that was something, while we had a great relationship on general data, we now wanted to be able to make that relationship. But now we also want to make content data relationships, right? Because we want to make sure if you're down for tough guy movies on, Saturday afternoons, we want to make sure that the recommendations that you get, and by the way, that's all voluntary. It's not like the social interruption that people get with stuff just being thrown at them. This is all being created around your recommendations, your profiles of what you as a consumer want. So that was important because AWS helped us there. But then it became one of those things where we started getting outreach from other places, in other countries. They were saying, listen, we would love to have this technology in other countries. Well, to do that, we certainly had to have the ability to turn it on and off in those countries and grow and scale. So they really supported us with that. They got one of the Platinum Partners mission involved, which helped to kind of draft all this out. And even then you take it to the next level, content management, which we call CMS for short. Realize when you go to Mexico, they're going to have their own content that they're going to want brought into that because it's their localized content, their own advertisement. But more importantly, we're going to have a lot of things that the US wants, to be able to export over. But there's certain things they don't want to export. So there you got on and off switches, right, for every country. But think about how automated that is just to go in. The ads work, the content works, the scale works. So between the mission relationship and the AWS relationship, we're kind of like on this trajectory just to go in and set up and go instead of building in servers and racking everything. And that's really been a huge benefit to what we're doing.
That's great to hear. It's great to hear you're leveraging all the resources made available to you. And then just to wrap things up, just share with the audience how your relationship has evolved with AWS and maybe some of the things that you'd like to point out or you'd encourage someone who's considering the cloud to do. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, I mean, it's all there, right? I mean, we kind of look at it as Legos, right? I mean, in the old days, we used to build code, and today it's all components, and therefore you need to piece it all together. In our case, and I'm sure in many other cases, if the framework is there and the plumbing's there and everything's there, you're just clicking on the things that you need to turn on and off. I can't even explain the value and the scale and being able to. Another thing most people don't think about, the projection of cost, because you're going to have a cost of consumer usage that has to be configured because you can't go, oh, let's just all run to Mexico, right? I mean, it doesn't make sense, because Brazil's going to be different. That's going to be different than Europe, which is going to be different, of course, than in the MENA countries, every place else where those people go. So you have to be able to project, have to do sound business. And I think that's really super important because for us, it's been very, very helpful. And we've just created relationships at one of the last big trade shows with the broadcasters. And it's the same thing. These are the things that they're looking to get answers for. So if we can have answers and we can all look at these partnerships with the advertisers, the broadcasters, which we're now bringing broadcasters into our system, through the air into these home boxes, it makes it a lot easier for us to do projections and incorporate all the major companies because they're going to look for those reliable services underneath you. I mean, it's important.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear again about the partnership and the fact that it's fueled your growth. You're innovating on top of the platform. You're monetizing your data. I like to say you're turning data into an asset. You guys certainly have done that. And you're using it in a way to actually benefit your end customers, which just continues to add value, which is it's such a strong value proposition, Bill, that it's no wonder you're having the commercial success you're having. You're solving a lot of real problems, and you're using technology to make yourselves even more effective and more efficient. So we'll just close on this, Bill. Any last words? Anything you want to share with the community?
Well, we're very appreciative of what we have been able to do, but more importantly, of a lot of the people that support us. Our team here is very strong. I know that everybody relies on their staff and people out there today to get things done. And really, I got to say, you got to have the tribal knowledge is one thing, but you got to have the right partners to go out there and do the things that you need to do. we've been very happy and successful with our relationships. And I would suggest that, you know, people pay attention to those things, because those are the little things that make the difference between overall success and, you know, growth. Growth is important. Being successful for a couple of years is one thing. We've seen that in our own past, but really, you know, looking at in the future and what we can mean to people overall, helping the consumer and being effective. It takes a village in the tribal knowledge.
It does, Bill. I really appreciate your partnership. I wish you much success, and we're in this with you. So
You guys are the best.
all right. Thanks so much for your time today, Bill. We really appreciate it. And thanks to you, audience, for tuning in to this version of our Fireside Chat.